Hey everybody, welcome on into the Delmarva Sports Insider, your live and local show dedicated to giving you all local sports. And I'm Sports Director Brandon Bossert.
What is up? It is yours truly, sports anchor Devin J. Martin. Welcome into the show, Brandon. Today's DSI is basically the basketball show. We're all talking hoops all day and all night, and we know we got to start with the game of the night.
Yeah, that's right. And Devin's refreshed after your family trip this past week.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun, but I didn't want to stay away too long because I miss a lot of basketball.
Yeah, you can't stay away for too long.
No, there's too much stuff going on.
There's
too much stuff going on, and who would have thought in that time frame Washington would be maybe the team to beat in the Bayside South? I mean, them and Y High both undefeated and both sitting at 4-0.
Yeah, that's right. Washington is a team to watch out for. You know what? Tonight they had a chance to really prove something. They proved a lot so far this year already.
They absolutely have, and luckily they got to match up with each other, both undefeated. So someone had to lose. Someone was leaving Princess Anne with a loss. So who would it be? It was a packed house in the home of the Jaguars, and a lot of the home faithful came out to see their Jags play. Now, Washington, Brandon, made the first move in the game. The loose ball ends up in the hands of the Jags, and that's Jalen Wigfall ends up with the basket plus the foul. The Jags went up 6-0. But the Tribe wouldn't be scoreless for long. Antoine Wilson strokes the long ball to put Y High on the board. And then in transition, Kurt Thomas finds Wilson open for the dunk right there. The two-handed slam ties up the game at 10 apiece.
And he's doing that every single game.
Absolutely. And again, the game was tied after one, but the Tribe would take a lead in the second. But Raekwon Carr pulls it up off the dribble and hits the three right over Wilson. But the Tribe would outscore the Jags 23-13 in the second to give them a comfy lead in the third quarter, and they would take that into the second half.
All right, freshman sensation Elijah Thomas gets the and one to fall. He had 14 on the night. Now the Jags were starting to fall behind. They were down 24 after three quarters. Game not over though. Carr with the step back gets Jalen to shield to touch earth there. He falls, or that shot falls as Carr shoots it and completes the highlight play with the made three. But that wasn't enough to keep the Tribe's offense off the board as Wilson finishes with 27 and Jaden Handy also added 17. The Tribe might be deeper than we thought coming into the year. Y High moves to 5-0 on the season, and the Jags fall to 4-1. Head coach Butch Waller's thoughts about the team start to the season. Let's hear him.
15, I wasn't sure what I had because last year we had 8 seniors. And I thought, well, are we in a rebuilding mode? 3 weeks into practice, I said, you know what, we got a pretty good team here. I wasn't sure what kind of player Antoine Wilson would be because he'd been gone for 2 years. Obviously, he's a pretty good player. So we're getting more used to each other because some of them are fairly new. So it's been a fun team. We're all good students. They're all academic. Whatever I ask them to do, they do to the best of their ability. And right now we're having fun.
He wasn't sure what type of player he's getting in Antoine Wilson.
I think he was just being humble right there. He knew he
got me laughing right there because you know what? I could tell you what type of player you're getting out of Antoine Wilson, seeing him with Cross Christian last year. He's sensational. Now, before we break down everything we saw this week, let's take a look back at some of the games we saw. Let's start with the Tribe and Snow Hill a couple nights ago. Jayceer Fields, a talented player for the Eagles. That's a nice drive and finish. But Snow Hill outclassed on Tuesday. Antoine Wilson, a couple of dunks, and he led all scorers once again. Y High went on to win by 26. That defense was stifling, allowing just 4 points to Snow Hill in the first quarter. And are the Tribe the best team in the Bayside? Well, you know what? One of us thinks so.
Yep.
One of us doesn't.
Yep.
So we'll talk about that a little later.
We're going to have that discussion a little bit later. But before we get into that, the Snow Hill Eagles with an incredible upset, a 1-point game in the final seconds. Tyler Reddick gets the Eagles back in front. This game was back and forth, a sensational rivalry game in Worcester County. The Snow Hill transfer, Jaden Hudson, he wasn't enough in this one for Decatur. It was Reddick who won the game. Snow Hill defeats Decatur. A rough start for the Seahawks with losses to Bennett and Snow Hill, but for the Eagles, they have to be flying high right now.
Yeah, they sure are, because you know what? You might have lost to Y High, but you beat Decatur the night before. Right. That was a great win. Wild night back on Tuesday. Decatur hosting Washington. Seahawks down 7 final minute. Evan Copeland ahead to Jaden Hudson Okay, here we go. Evan Copeland from downtown. He buries it. Excuse me. Zachary Baker. Baker with the turnaround three-point shot. And Decatur ties things up at the buzzer, and we would go to overtime.
And his guys would respond. Nice floater by Jaron Hudson. Decatur goes in front early in the extra period, but from there it was all Washington. And when you need a bucket, call on ET. A freshman Elijah Thomas at the line was 12 of 16. And here's a tough drive and finish. He had 35 points in this game. Thomas makes two of the players fall to the hardwood here, makes them touch earth, and drains another basket right there. Washington already with a win over Pocomoke, and then they defeat Decatur in Berlin, 83-77 in the final score. What a game by the Jags, and they were unbeaten up to that point before they lost to Y-High tonight.
They've been playing it tough. This is our third game on the road, and they've been playing it tough. What can you say? And nobody expects much out of us because we're Washington. And I told them we're going to prove everybody wrong that we come to play.
We've definitely gotten a lot better over the last few years. Our coach was able to come up with a new game plan. We got more experience now.
A long, long time. But it's a refreshing feeling. Know that these guys understand now that they can win on the road against good teams.
Now to the Parkside Rams and the visiting Bennett Clippers from earlier in this week. Parkside's defense was stifling early. Bennett comes right back, though. Final play of the third quarter, Dustin Brown lays it in as the buzzer sounds, and we're tied at 39 heading into the fourth quarter. And Bennett was aggressive in the fourth, though. Rebound and put back by Darian Collins. Clippers beginning to take control. Isaac Roberts was a pesto. Call this man mid-range change right there. He couldn't miss from 10 feet out. 19 points and all for Roberts, 8 of which came in the fourth quarter as he kept the Rams in this game. Jace Hudson would foul out, but Zakai Smolin stepped up big in his absence. 28 points, 10 coming in the final quarter. Dustin Brown, a tough bucket here with gets Parkside back within 2 with 3.5 minutes left. But the Rams could only manage one basket in that time. Bennett goes on a 15-2 run to close out the game, and the Clippers go to 4-1 on the year.
All right, and earlier on in the week, Bennett hosting Easton, still without Kevin O'Connor for the Warriors. Lake Fletcher for 3 there. He's another good player for Bennett. They open up a lead in the second quarter as the Clippers took control of this one early. Easton struggling out of the gate, but they still have some good playmakers on that team like Jordan Nixon, Sean Moody, but they will be a different team once Kevin O'Connor is back on the floor.
So, Brandon, we got to talk about who we have in our top 5. And now we'll go top to bottom. You see Y-High's number 1, Queen Anne's is number 2, Bennett's number 3, Cambridge is number 4, and Washington is number 5. Now, for me, before the season, I would have had Easton up there and maybe Parkside as well, and obviously Decatur as well. Those are 3 of the teams that have gone off to disappointing starts of the season. So a lot can change, but shout out to Washington. They're definitely up there, 4-1. Tough loss today against the Tribe, but they have definitely shown that they are to be reckoned with in the 1A. And again, I have Y-High as number 1.
Yeah, we've got the same top 3. Let's take a look at my list. Quite a bit different on the 4 and 5. I have Queen Anne's at number 1. Vincent Gilberto has been a force this year. KJ Smothers, a tremendous 1 or number 2 for them on any given night. They also have Colin Wolford and Jay Roy. I think that team is deep. They're talented. They're veteran-laden. I think that they're the best team in the Bayside right now. I'm going to keep Bennett at number 2. I love the aggressiveness of this team. Zakai Smullen, their only loss was to Queen Anne's, by the way.
Yep.
Zakai Smullen's one of the top scorers in the entire conference, and they play as a cohesive unit. I love their aggressiveness on the floor. I bumped Y-High up from 4 to 3. It's hard to not move them up with Antoine Wilson in the fold. You know what? I cannot disparage your list whatsoever having Y-High at number 1 because right now I'm kind of feeling like, what am I doing?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it can go either way. Again, Queen Anne's is definitely a team that deserves a top spot consideration as well. But I think for me, it was between Y-High and Queen Anne's for me. I had Bennett at number 3. But again, we both have Washington up there as well.
Got to give respect to Washington. They deserve that respect. Beating Pocomoke, beating Decatur, and I can't wait to see what Elijah Thomas grows into. And then Decatur at number 5. They've lost 2 overtime games. They've lost to Washington. They've lost to Bennett, both in overtime. And let's see what Decatur looks like once they get Dave and Chandler back.
Right, and I think that's a team that's going to be a lot different. I think they're definitely going to be in the top spot, competing for the top spot.
I mean,
'cause
Dave and Chandler, Tribe-wise,
Yep.
Bryson Coleman. You got to remember, too, there's a lot of football players on that Decatur team, and they made a deep run in the playoffs.
Yep.
So they're still trying to mesh as a unit.
Yeah,
along with Jaden Hudson.
And again, I think David Chandler is definitely a difference maker. So he's someone that you can't ignore. But again, he's out injured, but he'll be back in less than 10 days.
All right, so let's talk about it. Why high number one for you?
Yeah, so I have why high number one. I think it's just the power of Antoine Wilson in terms of his game. I mean, it's too easy for him out there. Yet another game where he just was dominant.
He's smooth on the court.
So smooth. And then the athleticism, the vertical athleticism. He's the only guy that I've seen that's been really throwing it down in terms of getting a lot of dunks. And again, dunks aren't everything because he can also shoot threes too.
Right.
So he can dribble, he can shoot, he can dunk. He's 6'4". He's very tall. He's played defense. He's played against great competition at Cross Christian. I think this has been a little bit too easy for him. That's the way that he makes it seem. That's how great he is. But again, why high is not just the Antoine Wilson shore.
Right.
I mean, tonight they had Handy. He scored 17 points. Malik Leatherbury, really good on the field, football field. Really
They've
good
also
on the
got
hardwood.
Jalen.
And Jalen Deshiel Andrews, who's got a nasty jump shot. I mean, they have a lot of players. My only concern with the Tribe is kind of like last year's their depth. I mean, once they actually start bringing people off the bench, really how much they can contribute to them. And that's where I think maybe Queen Anne's or another team could have them beat. But, why high? For me, I just think when it comes to their ability to peak, I have them number one. That's why I have them up there.
Well, you know what? They have the best coach. And they have the best player.
Yeah.
So it's hard to argue with. But I will say this. You had Cambridge on your list.
Yes. Yeah.
So I do appreciate Cambridge getting some love because they've been running through the 1A competition so far this year, and they deserve more recognition.
Yes, and we'll definitely be getting a lot going out to their games as well. But as you mentioned, I mean, even last year they made it very far in the state tournament.
They sure
Best team
did.
in the 1A. And most of their players, I know they lost a couple last year that weren't there. That's not there that's not there this year. That was there last year.
Including Dario Belizaire.
Absolutely. But they still have, a good big man and their point guard from last year, Anthony Hughes. So they're going to be really tough and a tough team. And I couldn't have them outside of my top five. I still think that, I could see Bennett being ahead of them right now. And I could also see, Queen Anne's and Y High being ahead of them right now. But I also see, again, Cambridge is just on their level, but we got to rank them in order somehow.
And it's tough when you're ranking 1A schools versus 2A schools
yes.
versus 3A schools as well. But Cambridge definitely deserves some respect after the start that they've gotten off to.
Yep.
All right, so that'll do it for the A block. We're taking our first time out. Just how good is Seaford? How good are the Seaford Blue Jays? They made it to the semifinals last year. Well, are they the top team in the Henlopen this time around? We're talking about it next.
Hey, my name is Antoine Wilson. You're watching Delmarva Sports Insider.